my love replaced the fear. And that just became the way of living. And it truly is, okay, I intend to be of value to every person I talk to today. Well, who am I even talking to? Right. And then once I'm engaged with somebody, if I'm curious enough, I can almost always find the action item.
Yo, what is up, everybody? I am the host of the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors podcast. I should say my name. My name is Matt Drouin. Welcome to the show. We have a very special guest on today. And we're actually going to be taking this in a completely different direction from the typical format of the show that I've been doing for over a year now, and going into a different story and a different direction with the typical format of our podcast, and have this kind of weaved in with our industry expert podcast and also the main show that we have. And I am psyched out of my mind to have Miss Erin Bradley on the show today, who is a speaker and trainer, best-selling author, host of the real estate podcast, Pursuing Freedom. Definitely check that out and subscribe. As a mortgage lender, Erin learned the hard way just how difficult entrepreneurship and success in sales can be. From flat broke to six figures and then to burnout. I'm sensing some themes of having to reinvent yourself multiple times, which I definitely want to get into on this one. Erin has been through it all and quickly discovered that the stress of overwhelm is no less painful than the financial stress. After redesigning her business to support her dream life, she's been on a mission to teach her fellow real estate professionals to do the same. Erin operates under the mindset that you never give up, you never settle in life or in business, and anything is possible when you have the right mindset, great systems, and an amazing team. Thank you for coming on the show, Erin. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Really honored. Thanks, Matt.
All right, so I don't want to start with how you got into the real estate industry and that sort of thing. I want to start from the beginning. What makes you you? I typically ask my guests, you were born, now you're here, what happened in between, but tell us your story.
Well, one of my mottos in life, I guess there's a few, but it's like, say yes to life, because we don't know how much time we've got here, and if not now, when. And it helps to guide me through the decisions I've made in the journey of my life, which has been quite a winding tale. But ultimately what happened was, when I was in fifth grade, I lost a friend to cancer, a brain tumor, and went on to lose 5 of my best friends before the age of 22 to a series of unfortunate events. And so having experienced that much tragedy and trauma at a young age, I remember feeling a very clear moment around the age of 21 when, once again, the same friend group is at the same cemetery, the same church, the same, how are we here again? And seeing the downside of experiencing loss and how that can lead to hopelessness or depression. And it can also be an indication that we have no clue how much time we've got, and we better make the most of it. And so from a young age, I was kind of an adventurer and a free spirit. I resisted the urge to follow the normal plan. I mean, I went to college, I got a business degree. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. All my siblings graduated from college and went straight into corporate America on the East Coast. It was kind of the expected thing to do, right? My dad was a stockbroker and financial advisor in Philadelphia, and I graduated with my business degree. And as I did, my older sister was quitting her corporate job because she was having her first child, and she went on to have 4 kids. And I remember thinking, well, I don't know. I hope I get to have kids someday. And I don't know what my desires will be in the professional sense once I do have kids. So I'm going to go against the grain here and get a job at Outback Steakhouse to fund my travels. And much to my parents' chagrin, I graduated from college, became a server, and then went and kayaked to the coast of Mexico for a month. I lived in Barcelona as an English teacher for 2 years, went on safari for a couple weeks in Africa. I mean, did all kinds of adventures, climbed the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, and then found myself back in Philadelphia and ultimately moving out to Colorado, where I stumbled into the mortgage business. And somebody told me I would be great in the mortgage business. And I was thinking to myself, hell no, that's not for me. I'm not doing this corporate America thing. I am a free spirit here. Okay. So, but then I took the job anyway, because it seemed like a fun group of people. And I saw the self-employed people, the loan officers that were working 100% commission. And they would come to the office in jeans and a t-shirt every day and go to yoga in the middle of the day. And then they'd put on their suit for their closing. And I thought to myself, that is the life for me. Footloose and fancy free. I need to be self-employed. I need to be my own boss. I need all the freedom and flexibility of entrepreneurship. And so I took the leap and went 100% commission in '07, only to fall flat on my face. And I had no systems. I had no safety net. I had no money. And within a year, I was 35 grand in credit card debt, maxed out on all my credit cards. And I remember I got a referral for a new client, and it was the summer in July in Denver, Colorado. And I had to ride my bike to the client meeting because I didn't have enough money for gas. I remember thinking, what am I going to wear that I can look professional and ride a bike and also not be super sweaty when the client gets there? So I'm going to get there early so he doesn't realize I came on a bike. And I did get there early, but unfortunately, so did the client. And he walked up and introduced himself to me as my credit card was being declined for a $2 cup of coffee. And so I share this story because it was mortifying. And the worst part was I didn't know which credit card could cover the cup of coffee. I thought that was the one that would work. So I had to just lie and say, I don't, that's so weird. That it's my debit card. I'm going to have to call the bank. And the guy bought my coffee. And I just remember feeling like I'm at financial rock bottom. So I call my dad for advice. And I'm like, how did you do this? How did you go 100% commission? This is so much harder than I thought. And he just said to me, do you think you're going to be good at this someday, Erin? And I said, I think I could. Yeah, I think I'd be good at this. He said, then you do whatever it takes. And so that's what I did. I just kind of did whatever it takes. And for several years after that, I hired coaches, devoured books, attended seminars, and I literally just told coaches, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And if I'm honest, it was a grind. Like I needed money desperately. And I even had a coach say to me, you can't have freedom if you don't have financial freedom. And so it was kind of like, I got to go all in on this thing, but it wasn't the easiest route and it wasn't fun, if I'm honest, but I did start to get some traction in my business. And it wasn't until 2011 that somebody gave me the book, The Go-Giver. And the philosophy of the Go-Giver is that the goal is to give more in value than you hope to receive in payment, or to be of value above and beyond what you get paid to do. And so that led me to develop a strategy that felt really aligned and authentic, where I stopped feeling salesy. I focused only on being of value to people above and beyond what I get paid to do, meaning finding ways to be a resource to them, even when they don't need my services. And that helped me become unleashed. And I saw my business start to double. I started teaching the strategy to others. And I was so grateful because the money was good and all my debts were paid off and we were starting to invest in real estate. But ultimately, I experienced massive burnout. I was simply surviving my own success. I was working 24/7 like it was a badge of honor. There were people ahead of me in the game, in the business, that admitted to working till 11, 12 o'clock at night, even with little kids at home. And I started to question everything. I just felt like, hang on a second. It's been a long ride to get here. And if this is what it looks like, if this is what success feels like, this might not be the path for me. I mean, and I started to question my ambition for financial independence because it felt like more, right? Like more business, more volume, more income, more sacrifice, more exhaustion, more burnout, more resentment. And it started me on this roller coaster of like broke to burnout, because when you experience burnout to the level that I did, I was pregnant with my second child. I was working around the clock. I was becoming a shell of myself personally and professionally. And my foot inevitably came off the gas. And so with that resistance, that fear of too much, it was almost more painful than the fear of too little, because the fear of too little was like a challenge. I was like, this is a game. I'm going to prove to myself, but the fear of too much was like, this kind of sucks, and there's got to be a better way. And so I almost quit the business actually, but somebody encouraged me to look for help. And so I ended up hiring one of my best friends, which was terrifying. The business more than doubled again. And it kind of became this journey of recognizing how many times I had been stuck in fear, in desperation, whether I was at the peak financially or at the bottom, and then how that fear felt so paralyzing in these different times of my life, and how making decisions to take action in spite of fear can lead you to beautiful, unexpected outcomes in your life, in your business, financial. And so it just kind of became the beginning of this game of life where if I feel an impulse or I feel something's out of alignment, I just refuse to suck it up and settle anymore. I'm willing to explore, to find coaches, to find paths, to hang around people that remind me of my future, and to experiment with this game of life. Because again, we don't know how much time we got, so might as well enjoy the ride. And I just don't believe in postponing the bliss. I don't believe in trading off present moments with my loved ones for this hustle grind mentality. But I also don't believe in compromising financial independence. So I believe that you can have the best of both worlds. And it's been a really fun journey since then. That's a long-winded answer, but there you go.
So as there's a couple of threads I want to pull on here, Erin, and I want to rewind the clocks a little bit in terms of the amount of loss that you went through at a time in your life when we all kind of thought that we were invincible, and that we like always had tomorrow, we always had next year, and all that stuff that a lot of people say to themselves that haven't experienced tremendous amount of loss. I mean, with me, the universe and God kind of like banged it over my head with first losing my mother due to cancer, my dad due to a sudden heart attack. Both that happened in my 20s, and then my stepmother, who was my only surviving parent, like had a massive stroke and never has been the same since. And then shortly after that, my grandfather got hit by a work truck in his own neighborhood while he was walking on the sidewalk, and and died. And I think that there's nothing more sobering than holding somebody's hand as they're taking their last breaths. But what it has done for me, and I'm wondering what it's done for you, is that it has instilled a sense of not of urgency, but also from the standpoint of like urgency, but not sacrificing what I want to do to have fulfillment in the present, if that makes sense. So there's these two kind of like dichotomies with, I know that not even today is promised, and certainly not tomorrow. So there's that, but then there's also like, being able to balance or having a balancing act to those two things. So kind of like tell me more about your insight on that.
Well, first of all, it's crazy how similar our paths have been, because I started the story with those, the beginning of experiencing loss at a very young age, and then seemingly over and over again. But my dad also went on to pass of a heart attack in 2017 in my home. And then last year, which was on the heels of another huge leap, I retired my mortgage license in October of 2022. By then we were investing in real estate in Colorado, out of state, Airbnbs, house hacking, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, you name it. And I also had my mortgage business, which I had scaled to have 9 employees. And then the book that I published called Pursuing Freedom, I released in 2016. It was outlining the strategy of how to be yourself, increase your referrals, have more fun growing your business, and how to scale so that you can actually have freedom. And that led to the podcast, which led to speaking and coaching. And so by 2022, I was doing a lot. We were traveling with our kids and homeschooling them while setting up Airbnbs. I was, running my business. I was doing the marketing and the branding and the recruiting and the onboarding and the systems and all the things. And then also doing the podcast and the coaching. And I was literally standing on a stage talking about the art of subtraction. And I realized the whisper became a roar. So I retired my mortgage license, and I took the leap to go full-time into making Pursuing Freedom my primary objective, which is the coaching and speaking. And I did so 3 months before my mom had a debilitating stroke and has not been the same since. And 2 months after her stroke, a childhood friend took his own life. And 3 months after that, another one of my best friends had a freak fall. Actually, today's the 1-year anniversary, and he passed. And so like you, it was like just a series of tragedies. And I think they have the power to completely knock you off the rails and derail your ability to function in the world, or they can continue to inspire you to live your fullest potential. So from that perspective, it's just been a constant reminder of, yes, I know what you're saying. Like, you want to live fully, but you also want to be preparing the legacy for your children, for your family, and be successful, right? And I think it was Hal Elrod who wrote The Miracle Morning that I heard on his podcast talking about this dance between complacence and ambition, right? Like if you become too complacent, like too relaxed and satisfied and content with the life you have and just trying to enjoy life, then it can lead to complacency, which can lead to laziness, which can lead to downfall, right? If you're so driven with your ambition to get to some destination where you give yourself permission to relax, to be at ease, to be present, to enjoy your life, you can sometimes miss those present moments. And so there is a dance, right? And what I notice is, especially with myself and with my coaching clients, that we all have narratives in our brain. They're just thoughts we think over and over again that become the beliefs, that become the stories, that become the excuses for why we convince ourselves to be fine when we're not. When we know we're stuck or we feel called to something more, and we're talking ourselves out of it because of the stories in our brain. It's just fear. It's just fear being loud, right? And it often keeps us stuck or even sets us backwards. And with that, I notice that if I'm talking to someone who has, let's say, some financial goals to grow their income or grow their savings net worth, and when they get there, they're going to feel better, right? Once I have more money, more closings, more business, more whatever, I'll feel so much better. I'll be able to be present with my kids or my loved ones, my friends, whatever. Or on the flip side of that, I see people running on fumes. They're operating at a high level, but surviving their own success and drowning. And they say to themselves, when things slow down, I'm going to feel better, right? I'm going to feel more relaxed, more at ease, be able to be present with my loved ones. And it's like, so what we're after ultimately is this idea that once we satisfy a certain desire, whatever that desire is, that we're going to feel better in the having of it. That's it, right? And so as it relates to that dance between ambition and contentment, it's simply saying, can I give myself permission to feel how I want to feel every single day, even as I'm in the journey towards the unfolding of the next desire? Because we were talking before we recorded, but Benjamin Hardy wrote an amazing book called The Gap and the Gain. And he talks about the gap between like unfulfilled, unsatisfied, unhappy people, and specifically here in the States, are often like living in the gap between where you are and where you want to get to next. And to live in the gain is to recognize where the distance from where you are to where you started and see how far you've come, which can give you a feeling of that peace and contentment and accomplishment, right? And so what's interesting about this, though, is that no matter what you've desired that you eventually accomplish, how long do you really revel in the accomplishment of that desire before it's replaced by the next desire? So, yeah. And so it's like, that was freaking awesome. Oh my God. And then like that home you dreamed of that you got under contract on, and then, you're living in it. And now it's just like, this is just where you live. It's not exciting on a daily basis, but now you have a new desire, right? Or maybe it's that investment or whatever it is, but you're so proud of yourself for like 5 seconds. And then there's a new desire that replaces it. And so the power in recognizing that is in seeing how we can control ourselves and how we feel and how we show up in our lives personally and professionally in the experience of the unfolding to the next desire, and the acknowledgement that there will always be another desire. So at what point do we wake up and give ourselves permission to feel good? And that's it. It's like, if I needed nothing, how would I want to feel today? How would I want to show up for others in my home, in my friend group, in my business? How would I want to show up for others? How can I be of value? And how will I know? And then that leads to inspired action, engagement, contribution. And I really believe that if you chase that contribution from the go-giver mentality, the dollars, the abundance, the opportunities, the unexpected, unsolicited relationships in your life, they show up as the byproduct of your contribution and how you show up in the world. So I think there's a lot of power in this inside-out approach to fulfillment and dreams and ambitions and hopes and all the things, right? And it's like, at the same time, I want to enjoy every day, because I'm not trying to be morbid. I hope I get to live to be an old lady. I mean, I hope so. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to postpone the enjoyment of today, because this is all we've got.
So let's talk about the, give value, create value, all this value stuff. It's like, it seems to be very overused in like, every podcast you listen to, right? Like, what does that specifically look like? Because there's a lot of people that I talk to about like, provide value, create value, that sort of thing. And like, I don't know, what kind of value can I even like create? What the hell are you even talking about? What specifically can I do to do that? So like, what's the process for even doing that. I mean, especially because there's a couple different demographics in terms of the people that listen and watch this show. There's people that are in their 20s that listen to the show, and there's people on the other side. There's like not very many people in the middle, and then there's like people that are 50 years plus that. And I talked and I have clients that are in that age range, and they're like, I kind of feel like invisible. Like what do I have to like actually give to the world to provide value? And I have to go into an actual discovery process with them to identify that. But like, what's the process that somebody can do that in terms of like what to identify? Because like just hearing it to some people, it kind of becomes vacuous and then lacks meaning.
Sure. Well, the whole concept of let's be of value to people so that we can see our own evolution in life and business and achieve these goals. And the path forward is to be of value to someone. It's like, yeah, what does that even mean? Right. Well, right there in the crux of it is that I am called to something. I have a desire. I have a longing for something. Maybe I have a need, right? A financial need. And they're saying, be of value. It's like, okay, well, clearly if I'm in a place of I need something, I'm already inherently in some level of insecurity. I mean, we all have insecurity. We all have fear. And there's nobody that we admire that doesn't still ruminate, second guess, have self-doubt, So we all have that. That doesn't make us special. It just makes us human. And so what I like to say is curiosity squashes insecurity all day long. In other words, regardless of why we are interacting in this moment, Matt, if I was called to reach out to you and I'm coming from a place of they told me to do this activity so that I can fill my need, so I can solve my problem, I can fill my void. I'm already coming from like a negative state, which means that any execution of this action is going to feel like that upstream energy, like I'm paddling upstream and it's a grind and I'm mustering up the courage and I'm digging deep for the motivation and all that kind of stuff. And many of us live in a constant state of that, right? And so instead, I say to myself, if I needed nothing, then again, how would I want to show up? How could I be of value? And how will I know? Well, I will only know if I apply curiosity. That means coming from a place of wondering how someone's doing. So what I like to do is look at three things. What are you excited about? What are you worried about? Or what are you working on? Because if I can find out the answer to any one of those questions, I can likely find a way to be a resource to you. So specifically in my business, what I realized after 4 years of push marketing and following the strategy the sales trainer gave me, which was like, do these things to get deals, to get money, to pay your bills, right? I'm desperate. Tell me what to do. Here's the plan, plug and play. It was fine. And I was getting deals, but I didn't feel aligned. I felt like an alien in the business, if I'm honest. And so when I thought about what does it mean to be of value, it means that when I go to reach out to you, Matt, if I did your mortgage a year ago and my resistance is that you don't need a mortgage, my insecurity is what are we going to talk about? That's all about me, right? So it's creating the resistance because I'm coming at you trying to solve my problem. If I come from a place of curiosity, what are you working on? What are you worrying about? What keeps you up at night? And I don't have to use those words specifically, but I'm coming from a place of peeling back the layers of the onion to see what's really going on with you these days. Then I'm going to have to arm myself with resources, which means other local service providers that can be of value to you when you don't need my services. So that might look like getting in touch with you and saying, hey, now that you've got that need has been served, we got you a mortgage. Let's talk about what's next for you. What's your long-term plan for this property? Have you ever considered having rental properties? Do you think that when you need more space, you'll keep this as a rental? Would you like to be connected with people that can educate you on how that would look? Or do you need someone to help you build your wealth, a financial advisor? Do you need someone to help you protect your wealth, a CPA? Do you have a will in place to protect your assets? I can recommend you to a great estate attorney. And so I started to leverage my friends and my clients to say, hey, I'm going to build this tribe of trusted local service providers. I want you to think of me when you need anything, not just a mortgage. And so I started to train my friends and clients to come to me for just about anything, right? Even if it's like, I need a referral for a window cleaner or an electrician or a massage therapist. I'm like, I'm on it. Let me go find someone in my network, which would prompt me to then reach out to more people to get connected to great, 5-star professionals in every arena, from health and wellness to financial services, home contractors, you name it. And in doing so, I started to really build deep relationships with these other 5-star professionals and understand their challenges, their hopes and dreams, Like, what are they worried about? What are they excited about? What are they working on? And then I can be a resource to them. You need to connect with so-and-so. Here's a book recommendation. Here's a referral for a service provider that can help you with that thing. And so that was it. And it was like game over. I never really had to talk about what I do for a living or what I need. I'm only coming from a place of curiosity, which helped me completely squash the insecurity. My love replaced the fear. And that just became the way of living. And it truly is, okay, I intend to be of value to every person I talk to today. Well, who am I even talking to? Right. And then once I'm engaged with somebody, if I'm curious enough, I can almost always find the action item. And then it just becomes kind of a snowball effect of activity. And I think that can be in anything you do. Like if you're a real estate investor, you're going to need a team of trusted local, you're going to need a team of trusted financial service providers, right? You need property managers, you need CPAs, attorneys, all kinds of people, right? And so as you start to build that team for yourself, can you be proactive in being of value to them in other ways than just being their client? Can you connect them with other people? Can you build a community of other investors like you're doing here, Matt? Like you're providing all this education and resources and value for investors who maybe are on the brink of taking the leap, or maybe they've already done some investments or whatever. You're doing that. You're being of value by collecting relationships that can come on your show and hopefully inspire some action in your listeners to take that first step or that next step, So that's how I define it specifically, is literally what's on your mind when you wake up at 3:00 in the morning and you can't fall back asleep. It's not my bank account. It's not my business. It's not my pipeline or my family. It's whatever's going on in your life. And if I can get to the bottom of it, I can find a way to show you that I care.
Yeah, no, that's very actionable. I mean, because a lot of people struggle with it that haven't really, they're bought into the whole mindset of, the go-giver and creating value, that sort of thing. But it's like, how do I specifically do it if I've been, living on Mars in a cave, like with my eyes shut, my fingers in my ears, just like living like the life I used to live is like the survival mode in terms of like, quid pro quo, you give me this, I give you that, and hopefully what I'm getting in return is a greater value than what I'm giving you. So to like kind of like re-engineer that and starting it takes time, but it is exponential because like, just case in point, I was we were on a call on your guest on your show, and I asked you in the green room. I was like, "Hey, I'm looking for more female guests to come on our show. We've been kind of like stacked, like way too many bros on our show." And you basically immediately replied in terms of introductions to like 3 potential guests for our show, like right after we ended our recording. And, it took time to build those connections for you too. And it may have taken the same approach, but it really grows exponentially and it really becomes a lot easier. But it starts like, when you're like planting a tree, right? It's like, the best time to plant it is 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. So no, that's incredibly great advice. I do want to dive into the delegation part because you were burning out, you needed help. That's very scary to solopreneurs and people that are running a real estate business as a side hustle that's running a sidecar to their job. Like you were scared to do that. Like tell us kind of like how your process was and what you learned and what you employ now when it comes to like leveraging the help of other people on your team.
Yeah, so it's all about energy management, and ultimately we're not all good at the same things. I mean, there's personality profile tests out there for a reason, right? Some of us are more introverted. Some of us are more extroverted. Some of us are more detail oriented. Some are more creative, more visionary. And so solopreneurs, they tend to have a vision. And there's a couple great books I would recommend. The E-Myth Revisited talks about how a solopreneur is wearing a lot of hats. You're supposed to be the entrepreneur, the visionary, but you're also the operations manager. You're the person who establishes best procedures and systems. And then you're also the technician who has to execute on the crossing of T's and dotting of I's. And so as you have this big vision and then you do the legwork, right? You start acting as the technician and inevitably you start to get results. Well, with each additional, let's say, opportunity or relationship that comes into your life, there's more activities that come with that. And so eventually you're going to find yourself doing too much. And so you have to evaluate, what can I offload to somebody else to make space for me to continue to elevate to that next level. And there's another great book called Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt. And he has you do this energy audit where you categorize all the things that you say yes to, every checked box, every unchecked box, every appointment, every relationship, everything that's like just falls under your calendar. And then just simply determine, are these things energizing for me? And he calls it passionate and proficient. Like, if I'm passionate and proficient, I'm in the desire zone, meaning I'm good at it, it moves the needle. If I'm passionate, not proficient, I'm in the distraction zone, meaning I'm good at it, but it's not moving the needle. That's pretty straightforward. Like, just try to reduce or eliminate distraction. And then there's the disinterest zone, which is proficient, not passionate. I'm good at it, but I don't really enjoy it. And he's like, this is one of the most dangerous places to be, because solopreneurs specifically will live in the disinterest zone for years or decades, because that's what pays the bills, meaning it's fine, I'll just do it. It's fine, I'll just do it. But when we're in that disinterest zone or distraction zone or drudgery, which is neither passionate nor proficient, our energy is being unknowingly drained right out of us. Like, it's just seeping out of us. And you can tell when you're out of the desire zone because of the resistance you feel. Like, it could even be that you're in a book club that you've been in for a few years. And as that day approaches on the calendar on that Tuesday night, you're just like, I don't really feel like doing this. I don't feel like going to a book club, but like, I feel bad not going. So I should just go. It's fine. Like, we talk ourselves into a lot of things. Or you have certain things like, just organizing your expenses or doing your marketing or whatever. And you're like, oh my God, I still need to do that thing. I don't know why. You keep procrastinating it, or you dread it, or you resist it. And the problem is that all those things that never make it to the finish line, because they're not the highest and best use of your time, also create a cycle of negative thoughts of self-judgment. Like, God, I suck. Why didn't I can't believe I still haven't done that thing. Like, so all this stuff, right? It's like pushing down. I like to use the analogy of a light switch, right? We all have a light within us. And when the light is on, are those moments where you're with your friends and family, you're having a great time, you're laughing, you're inspired, you're engaged, you're hanging around people in your business that light you up for some reason, and you leave that interaction more inspired. That's like lights on, right? And when lights are on, like a lighthouse in the storm, the ships will come to port, right? But when the light's out, everything feels heavy. Everything feels like a grind. And what I like to try to help people recognize is that we have control of the dimmer switch within us. And we have to be a witness to where we are energetically, especially if we're about to interact in some capacity, professionally, personally, in a way that we want to show up as our best selves, and acknowledge, am I dimming the light with all this internal narrative about, well, I just have to do this and I have to do that and I can't do this and I could never do that. And everything like that is just heavy, right? Whereas if we are evaluating how much of our time is spent in energizing activities and how much of our time is spent in draining activities, a lot of the times we can very quickly see, whoa, I'm spending maybe 20% of my time in my day feeling good, energized, and excited about what I'm working on. And the rest of the time, it's a freaking grind, And so we have to learn to eliminate. And that's the power of either eliminating, outsourcing, or automating. And so as we start to graduate from activities that we once did, and interestingly enough, you look at any industry that's not entrepreneurship, and people start out entry level, they have certain responsibilities, they excel, they achieve mastery, they get a promotion. And with that promotion, they graduate from those activities they were doing entry level. And then they're challenged, they're excited, they achieve mastery, they hopefully get another promotion. So it's very normal in most industries to consistently eliminate, subtract, graduate from things that you once felt challenged by that now are probably kind of boring for you. Because yeah, you can do it, but it's like, should you be doing it? I don't know. If you don't feel excited about it, then maybe not. And what I have found is that if I can enlist the help of somebody else, whether it's a virtual assistant at $400 a month, or it's a full-time employee at $4,000 a month, if I can offload 40 hours or 20 hours or 10 hours of activities that need to get done, but don't need to get done by me, the first thing I get as an ROI is relief, like an energetic release. And all of a sudden I feel more energized because things are getting done and I'm not having to do it. And I'm not even having the battle of talking myself into doing it or beating myself up for not having done it. And what ends up happening is that things I was doing inconsistently because it wasn't the highest and best use of my time are now happening with 100% consistency. It's going to move the needle. And if it attracts me one more transaction or whatever, one more opportunity, and if that financial ROI exceeds the investment, then it doesn't cost me to hire somebody. It's costing me not to. Like if there's a real estate professional listening who has, let's say, an average commission check of $10,000 and they outsource all their admin and marketing for $4,000 a month, and it brings in one more transaction a month, it's costing them $6,000 a month not to hire that person and level up their consistency and their systems, right? So I think it's just being a witness to who you are, what energizes you, and it's going to look different for each individual. And then being okay with the evolution, the exploration of what's next for me, and then what needs to be offloaded to make space for what's next for me. Because you can't just keep adding and adding and adding. That's where the burnout happens.
Uh-huh. Erin, I have some math, and challenge me out if you think it's BS. So I'm in the real estate income property business, has been here for a long time. And so what I found the math that works for me is that I'll take the total amount of income from the rental properties and all of my other businesses that I'm responsible for, and I'll calculate my hourly rate. And then if whatever I'm doing is I could get below that hourly rate, a lot of times these tasks are like way below that hourly rate, then it's like, okay, it's time to get this off my plate. Yes, I'm like, it feels like I'm paying for it, but if I can offload that and focus on the things that where I'm really like the highest and best use of my time, and it's a real estate term, right? Highest and best use for your building, highest and best use for your time. A building is replaceable, time is not. And sometimes people challenge me on there. It's like, well, yeah, you have like $2 million a year in gross rents on your portfolio, but that's not the net. And I was like, yeah, but I did things to create that business, the top line of that business, and private equity companies that value companies based upon their top line. So that's what I'm going to do, and that's what's worked for me. How do you feel about that?
No, I mean, I agree completely. And it is scary to invest, but if you want a business to run and have freedom, you've got to recognize that there's systems, and it's the system that runs the business. And if it's you running the business and only you, then you are inherently the bottleneck for your own growth. And when you have the systems in place and then you have people to run the systems and it drives revenue, then it's costing you not to have that in place. And I love that analogy of like, you might be $1,000 an hour earner and you're outsourcing a $15 an hour task, and it's going to bring in more revenue. Like it's just a no-brainer. We can't do it all the time and be energized and excited about all of it. And if the goal is freedom and flexibility, we've got to give ourselves permission to claim that now, in spite of the fear that it might not work out. Because staying stuck where you are and convincing yourself you're fine when you're not is going to definitely slow your progress, if not send you backwards at some point.
The last thing I want to ask you about is the threshold of I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that they're starting out, they're doing everything themselves. I mean, I when I started out in the, owning the first couple of rental properties, I mean, I did everything. I mowed the lawns. None of my properties actually had garages. So I mowed the lawns myself. So I would store the push lawnmower in the basement of one of these buildings. I bring upstairs. I remember I'd get covered with gasoline every single time of it. I'd throw it in the back trunk of my car, and then I would drive it to the next rental property, and I'd wheel this lawnmower up and down the sidewalks. Right? And my wife used to dread it because it would be 2 hours of every Saturday, right? So, but what's the threshold? I mean, I kind of talked about my math, but there's also a certain amount you should know how it works. I used to do all of my own video editing and my own social media and that sort of thing before I ended up outsourcing that, for instance, to a media company that I partnered with. So should people kind of start this on their own, kind of learn it, and then be like, okay, this is definitely not within that that zone. Let's get it. Or should it be like, all right, I don't even understand this. Like, let somebody else handle it for me.
So nowadays, I'm more in the mindset of the latter. Like, I am not good with tech, and I'm not good with systems, and I'm not good with Canva. I'm not good with creating images. And when I do, it looks sloppy. And I've found that when I can surround myself with people that are gifted in the things that I'm not gifted in, it instantly levels up everything in my life and business. And so I don't hesitate anymore to enlist the help of others. And I'm not afraid to invest ahead of profit if it's a new business. I'm really not, because I understand that there's quantum leaps available. Like you said, exponential, and it's 100% true. Exponential growth is available, and it's not going to be available if we're trying to crawl our way towards that destination. I want to catapult. So sometimes that means like a slingshot, you have to pull back before you can really launch it. And that might mean that I'm going to have a plan for investing in the setup of the foundation of a business so that I can launch and have a quantum leap to extraordinary success, rather than this baby stepping my way, because I'm not patient like that. So that being said, I also don't want to encourage people to be reckless with their money. So one thing that I encourage with my clients is get a crystal clear vision. Set a deadline for yourself. By 6 months from now, by June of 2025, I will have X, Y, and Z in place so that I can take my business to that next level, and then create a runway account. So I like to think that, if I figure out what I need to live on and put that amount in an account, pay myself that fixed amount, then any excess of that is going to go into the runway account to buy myself a life. So that means that once I have enough in that runway account, let's say to cover 3 months of someone's monthly pay, I'm willing to experiment for 3 months and see if it changes my life and business. And so that might mean starting small, right? Like a virtual assistant for $400 a month. So I need to put aside $1,200 to experiment with 90 days of getting this person onboarded, getting them trained, and then me getting out of their way to see how they operate. And when it's a win, when I find those diamonds in the rough, it always drives revenue to the next level. So I like to just say, like, if you want to prepare yourself, put aside the excess to buy yourself a life, reinvest it back into your business so that you can experience the quantum leap in your revenue. And then you can see how much faster you can grow when you get out of your own way.
That inspires a technical question for you. So, which will be my second to last question before we learn about how to get in touch with you. So, on the subject of training, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I have to train somebody. Like, just like put a gun to my head, please. What tools do you use for that? Do you use like Loom? Do you record Loom training videos and then like record a process and then put it on like a Google Drive, and like just tell us about like your specific methodology and recipe for that?
Well, yes, but first of all, I'll tell you what is that because I'm so bad at systems and technology and all those things, I hire people that are excellent at those things, and I give them a vision, a loose framework, like, okay, this is what I think the marketing should look like, or this is whatever. This is what I think the flow of this should look like. And then I say, make it better and manage me. So that might look like, okay, we get on a call and I'm going to show you how I've been doing it. We're going to record that on Loom. And then I'm going to encourage you to figure out if that could be done better, more efficiently, because how I'm doing it is probably like scratching the surface 10% of its capacity when it comes to technology. So I am a huge proponent. Like, I just hired a gal. She's doing all my marketing. She's a college student that is studying graphic design. And she'll come to me and say, well, I researched, the algorithms on Instagram, and here's what I've learned, and here's what I think we should be doing. I'm like, put me to work. I love telling my team members to manage me. I don't like to think that I could possibly have the most brilliant way of doing it. Or if I did, that would be my zone of genius, right? So I surround myself with rock stars, and I get out of their way. And I tell them, like, just let me know what you need from me to make sure we keep this project moving forward.
That's my advice. All right, Erin, how do our listeners learn more about you and get in touch with you?
Well, you can follow me or DM me on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Official. And I love hearing from you. So if there was like a takeaway or a question or you just had an aha moment, please reach out to me. It makes my day to connect with people. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Erin Bradley, Facebook, same thing. And my website is pursuingfreedom.com. So I love connecting with people just for the heck of it. I genuinely feel like, for me, connecting with other people creates energy that transmits into my next interaction in my day. And you just never know what kind of creativity will come from a connection call. It's like, if you go into your life, into your day with no agenda for once, like, I don't need anything specific to come out of this interaction. I just want to connect with you because you seem cool, interesting, whatever. I always leave with something. Like, it's so unscripted. And I think that's like something I just want to leave as a takeaway, is that so often when we're on the brink of something great that we feel called to do, and we have that resistance and that negative self-talk, and we don't know how to make it happen, so we don't even want to say it out loud that we want this thing, I always like to look back and see how many of my relationships, my interactions, my opportunities, and my life were actually unscripted and unsolicited by me, right? Stars align, your paths cross with somebody, some incredible new idea comes from that interaction, and it leads to the next thing. And you don't need to connect all the dots looking forward, but you can look back and see how much beauty has already happened in your life, and then be more curious and welcoming of the unscripted. So yeah, then it's like, just lighten up, play the game of life, have a little fun, and go for the dream, before you know how. Take that first step and be curious to see how life unfolds for you.
All right. So just say hi, just reach out and say hi to Erin, and then let's see what unfolds. Right.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Erin, you've been so generous with your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and look forward to being in touch in the future. If you are listening to this right now and you want to get on the exclusive access to our Industry Expert series, definitely make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel. I just actually did a video on understanding intimately commercial appraisals and how they work. And that's exclusive on my YouTube channel. Definitely make sure to follow me there at Matt M. Drouin at YouTube. And I'm looking to give you value out there. So thanks again, Erin, for being on the show. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.